Hello, welcome to my live stream. I'm going to be talking about topics that interest me. That's what my channel is all about. I'm currently talking about Donald Trump, that person in the United States who's had a lot of questions brought up about him, about things that he's doing and such, and we're going to be continuing our talk about him. First of all, though, I'm going to be asking for people to join my channel, to become subscribers. I'm doing this because I'm trying to get up my subscription list to the requirements that's specified by YouTube, which is 1,000 subscribers and also a 30 to 40 hour watch time of content. And if you could subscribe and watch content, that would help me out greatly, and I would greatly appreciate that. So to continue with our topic of the day, which is Donald Trump, and I've been talking for the past few episodes, which is basically the main purpose of why I'm talking about him, is to understand why things have happened, to understand why he actually was able to become president of the United States. To be honest, I don't find that there's qualities about him that would warrant taking that particular position with the capabilities that he has demonstrated he has. I feel he's very underqualified for that particular position, being one of the most dominant political positions in the world. But he was able to do it. And those question marks, I did ask, I think, to some point those questions and tried to review exactly how he was able to do it based on what I consider limited capabilities and such, and why. For myself, I believe it's got to do with the aspects of his ability to present himself in a way that's agreeable to people in general, or to specific people in general. I don't want to say in general everybody likes him, but the aspect of there are certain people that he was able to acquire because of how he represents himself. And it comes down to basically, I'm the guy who's there for you. I want to do things to help you out. And that's something that a lot of people appreciate, to hear somebody say, I'm doing this for you. Whether or not he's doing that, that's a whole other question, but the whole thing is, he certainly has sold things in that sort of light. And I want to continue that conversation. The last few topics has been going over, where did Donald Trump come from? What's his background? What were the things that made him who he is? And one of the biggest things is his father. Like a couple of episodes I had, I went over, reviewing and talking about his father, and I've seen documentaries and presentations on his father, and it always comes down to, he was a tough guy. He was tough on his family. For lack of a better way to present this, he was tough on his family. And it is presented that Donald Trump grabbed onto that kind of persona, that kind of way of tackling things, as something that was obviously something that he could also do. Other members in his family took his father's aggressiveness very hardly. I don't know if that's actually a word, but I'm going to say it anyways. He showed that he pushed people extremely hard, and it was extremely consequential for people in his family particularly. Why? Well, not really sure. I actually went over a documentary. I actually saw a documentary about his grandfather, who he was the one who he immigrated from Germany for a lot of different reasons per se, or at least understandably wise, but most likely the aspect of he was just looking for something better. grandfather was a barber, and the aspect that he was able to do what he was able to do, I was surprised. He goes, I would not think in my mind that this is what a barber would do, but his grandfather did quite a bit. The one thing that I mentioned previously in my previous episodes, was of the things I've read, the things I've seen, nobody or nothing was described about his grandfather being aggressive. There was nothing in that light. In fact, it looked like his grandfather's mother, took good care of him, almost, I don't want to say spoiled, but, was very concerned about him getting through and doing whatever it is to help him get to where he needs to be in life. I didn't get the impression that his grandfather would be aggressive, but I don't know, because, again, of the things that I've seen, there's been no documentation about whether or not his grandfather was aggressive like his father was. And that would be interesting to find out, to see if this is something along the lines of a continuance of this type of characteristic in his family or not. Certainly know his father was very aggressive, and to some extent, well, not to some extent, Donald Trump is also very aggressive. But again, is this something that came down through life? I don't know. I apologize. I'm looking over here. I'm using Video Ninja for communication capabilities, and it looks like there's something going on, but...
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me? Okay, I'm not really sure exactly how this works. Audio settings. Give me 1 minute. Can you hear me on my channel talking on my YouTube channel? Hello? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Okay. I'm not really sure. I apologize for everybody. I'm trying to get this going on my Video Ninja, and I've not used this. Video settings, copy, solo view link, highlight, hide. Excuse me, I'm just stating the things that are on here. Message, add a voice. Can you hear me at all, person that I see in the Video Ninja? No, I don't think he can hear me at all. Reconnect mic. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, I don't know. He's coming in and out, but he does not seem to be able to hear me, and I'm not sure if he can... Can you hear me? I can hear some audio in the background, but I'm getting the feeling your connection is not good. Maybe. Testing, testing. No, that's him.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I don't see you. I don't hear you. I don't see any other people but myself. Are you there?
Okay. Uh, okay. Okay, if you can hear me on YouTube, can you respond to me asking that you can hear me? I'm just trying to get this going. This is the first person who's actually connected to my channel, and I'd like to get things going good because this is what I've been trying to do. No, you can't hear me.
I can't hear when in the video app because I have to have the stream open and I'm on my phone.
Okay, I'm not really sure if that's going to go with this particular person. Talon Talks is the person that contacted me. He said he can hear me. I can hear him a little bit when he talked on the Ninja video interface, but he said he was communicating with me on a phone, and I don't think that's ideal. I think it would have been better if he was probably more in a concrete. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep an eye on him and talk about the stuff he's talking about. But again, I'm going to go and continue with the stuff that I'm. In case he's going to go to his computer. Well, let's just say that. So, as I said, I'm going to continue with the aspects of the conversation that I have been doing about Donald Trump. And as I mentioned before, I'm using ChatGPT just because, hey, why not? And at the end of all the conversations, it brings up other questions that could be asked about the topic being done. And at the end of my last conversation, it came up with some things that it brought up as points. I actually think all of them are actually good points, and I actually like to see and go over all of them, but I pretty much only go over one at a point, so I'm just going to go and see if anything stands out to me 100%, or let's say what stands out to me above everything else. Explain what would break Trump's supporters' loyalty. That's very interesting. Compare this loyalty to cult dynamics versus normal political coalitions. I think that gets into, what it basically said there. Cult dynamics is really basically goes into that. So show how other leaders lost loyal bases and why Trump hasn't. I think with respect to at least the American arena, the Democrats seem to have a hard time with the aspect of presenting themselves in a way that seems to be something that's likable, for lack of a better way of saying that. I'm not sure if that's truly 100% way of saying that, but I get the impression from a lot of things I see about people who are talking about news representations or news activity that's being done about the Democratic Party, a liberal party in the United States, and exactly why it seems that they seem to have a difficulty in the aspects of their voter base. And it seems the aspect of saying, not really sure, but it almost seems like they don't get all the voters to come out of their base. Why? That's a big question itself. Analyze how loyalty differs between core supporters and casual voters. I think that's got something very similar to the topics above it. But actually, I think the first one, explain what would break Trump's support or loyalty, that actually is interesting to me because I'm wondering if ChatGPT is going to kind of explain, this is what a Trump supporter is. This is what they look for. I'm thinking the aspect of what I mentioned at the beginning of this particular chat is that a lot of things about how Donald Trump got to where he got to is the aspect that he's been able to sell himself as a person who is there for you. Now, whether or not that's true, again, that's personal perspective, I guess, and there is some evaluation to try to present things in a way that sits there and says, hey, this is what we evaluate the actual aspects of what he is actually doing for people actually being, and there's a lot of question marks about that. But again, when people are loyal to somebody, they somewhat don't really care what that person's doing in general. They just, love them doing. And that gets into cult mentality in general. I said that before. I find a lot of in the United States, the aspects of the voters in the United States almost get caught up into a cultish-like attitude with respect to their political leaders. I'm from Canada. We sure as hell don't do that at all. In fact, a lot of times, we're the first ones to complain about the people that we're supporting. Only because the aspect that says, if they do good things, we support them. If they do bad things, we get really annoyed and we bring it out. I don't see that in the United States. I see the aspects of, it almost seems that if you're a supporter of a specific political person, that loyalty is 100% and there's nothing that's going to break that loyalty. Again, it gets into that cultish mentality. I'm kind of wondering, why that is. Maybe asking this question will bring up some of the points of, why are people so loyal? Why is that cult mentality something that's strong in the U.S. political arena? And maybe in the general arena of the population of the United States, maybe people just look at things in that sort of light in that particular country. I don't know 100%. I'm just coming up with questions. As I mentioned before, I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I'm just bringing up general statements or perceptions that I think a lot of people would actually do in the aspects of asking questions, which is what I want to do. Okay. Breaking Trump supporters' loyalty is much harder than persuading a swing voter because that loyalty is psychological and identity-based, not transactional. That said, it is not unbreakable. There are specific conditions under which it could fracture. Okay, ChatGPT, you're going to show us your psychological evaluation capabilities. Below is a clear, realistic analysis of what would break Trump supporter loyalty and why most attacks fail. Okay. That would be interesting to understand. What would actually break Trump's supporter loyalty? Excuse me, I'm not speaking, well, I don't speak properly most of the time anyway, but I apologize when I mix up my words as I'm trying to say things. Key principle. Trump's supporters do not ask, is he flawed? And I think that gets in the aspects of the cult mentality. Once you get brought into that sort of arena, you don't look at the person that you're supporting in that light at all. You just don't, just because you've been brainwashed. They ask, is he still fighting for us, and does he still look strong? And I think that someone goes along the lines of what I said before, just previously to this conversation, which is, he has been a seller of this, I can't think of the word I want to use, but basically he sells himself as a person that's there for you. Now, whether or not you believe that, that's a whole other question mark. But again, he does that. And he was and has been able to convince a lot of people in the United States that that is what he's doing. So I can see that. And does he still look strong? And I think a lot of the aspects of previous conversations I've had, and a lot of things that came up is the aspect of he does not show failure, he does not accept failure, and he certainly will not indicate any failure with anything he's doing. And a lot of the previous conversations came up the aspect is because he does not do that, he always looks strong, regardless of the absolute underlying interpretation of that from different groups. The ability to do that, or the activity of doing that, convinces people that that's okay. Excuse me for 1 second. I have this person trying to contact me again. Hello? 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 Unmute? Mute? Audio settings, mic delay, my mic delay. There's nothing here in audio says. Additional controls, create timer, record, change URL, label.
Appears your stream is delayed. Like, appears your shit is delayed.
YouTube, that's normal for YouTube and, the communication software I have. So there's going to be a bit of delay, yes, but the aspects of communication should be okay with this particular tool. Can you hear me? Testing.
Yes.
You can hear me? Yeah, I don't think Video Ninja is working very well in this aspect. Yeah. Anyways, let's continue with our conversation here. Loyalty breaks only when answer becomes no in a way that supporters cannot psychologically reframe. And again, Donald Trump has done a good job to present that type of thing to his supporters very strongly, which is, I'm here for you. And he doesn't say he's strong. Well, he actually does say he's strong, but the aspect is he does not present himself as somebody who's failing, and a lot of people accept that as a very positive kind of presentation. Perceived weakness or submission, most dangerous. This is the single greatest threat to Trump's loyalty. And again, we can see why that's something that really comes out not very strongly, which is again from previous comment, is he doesn't present himself that way at all. This is the single greatest threat to Trump's loyalty. What would trigger it? Public apology that signals surrender, which he does not do. I've never seen him do that. Acceptance of humiliation, he's never done that. Deference to elite, he previously attacked, does never do that. Backing down without retaliation, does not do that. Appearing controlled or managed. And I think this goes along the lines of what we just talked about before, which is he does not ever show that presentation to the general public. Apologize for a second. The person I've been talking with is asking me, is it possible for you to join the Video Ninja and just record that? Okay. So that thing is just basically just a reiteration of the previous points, which is he doesn't show that. He doesn't show any failure. He doesn't show or accept any kind of indication of something that he's doing wrong. In fact, everything he does is always based on the presentation of whatever I do is right. Why it matters. Supporters equate strength with protection. Okay. If Trump looks weak, they feel exposed. Probably. If he won't fight, he can't protect us. Yeah, this is a far more damaging than any scandal. And that's kind of interesting because my previous conversations, one of the topics was, how does he get around these scandals? And I would say in general, it's kind of like a big question mark. Exactly how does he get around these scandals? And I think it's got a lot to do with that cultish mentality, that brainwashing, consequence, that his supporters just don't accept any kind of failure that is being accused of him, for one thing, and the fact that he never ever indicates any kind of failure on his own accord, I guess. He always shows a very, very strong, very, very positive, in quotation marks, presentation. And scandals, a lot's got to do with, especially with all the things that go along nowadays, is people, because of the aspect, for one thing, they're in a cult, and they do not accept any kind of scandal that has been accused as being valid. It's just not valid. And you can sit there and say, that sounds like a cult. That anything that this person does can never be wrong because he's the leader. And I see that a lot in that aspect. But again, the whole thing that the last few topics they've been bringing up was that it only is something that's seen in a way that it's being seen, because Donald Trump never ever presents himself in a failure perspective. Like saying goes, oh, I did this and I'm shouldn't. He never says, this was not the right thing to do. This was something that should. He never says that. Everything it comes down to is, this is what had to be done. This was what the correct thing to be done that was done, and that there was no failure occurring. And again, people love that. Examples: explicitly blaming supporter for losses, which he does. Mocking or dismissing their concerns, he does. Siding with institutions against them, yes. Cutting deals that visibly harm his base. Endorsing figures seen as enemies. This would shatter the protector role. Okay, well, it's kind of like some things where there's points of where it was something positive for him, but they're saying those are all negatives. ChatGPT, you getting this right? Supporters can forgive flaws. They do not forgive betrayal. Interesting. Excuse me for 1 second. Could you open Video Ninja, talk in it, and record the Video Ninja window? Okay, I'm just trying to converse with that person about the things that are going on here. He did say he can hear me, but I didn't get any kind of representation of what's going on here. Links, click here for a quick overview, customize, pro audio mode. Yeah. I've not used Video Ninja myself explicitly, so it's something new for me, and I would probably have to get more up to speed on because it's unclear exactly what's going on here. Room settings, change room video quality, highlight director, allow for remote co-directors, enable side, local record, start all, remote record, start all. Okay, it looks like he was asking about recording. It looks like there's an option to record, but I just don't feel comfortable doing that. Mute the speaker. There's a chatting operation, so I'm going to have to investigate that in the future. Okay, anyways. At least it's the first person that actually joined my channel, joined my conversation, even though it didn't go very well. Loss of authenticity, becoming like them. Trump's power depends on being seen as unscripted, uncontrolled, unfiltered, outside the system. To me, I would say, well, that seems like an aspect of unprofessional kind of communication, I guess. That doesn't seem to be something that he's talking about concretely, that it's just coming out as something that he's just saying and not something that that is organized, let's say. Loyalty breaks if he appears overly coached. That actually has come out quite a bit, and people have been saying that it's been coming out quite a bit, but it didn't seem to be that it was taken at the aspect of his followers occurring. He adopts establishment language. If that gets in the aspect of speaking, concretely and effectively, he does not do that, no. He becomes cautious or vague. I would say he speaks that way all the time. It's just the aspects of being able to understand that that's what he's doing. He stops naming enemies, which he does not do. He goes strongly in that light. At that point, supporters ask if he's the same as everyone else, why him? And I think he's also sold himself out as that way, saying, goes, I'm here for you, and they're the bad guys, and I'm here to help you out. I'm here to make sure everything goes well for you. And again, that's been a big selling point. And I can see ChatGPT has not been something along the lines of describing things in a way that's more along the lines of what I actually already understood in that context of, what would make people not follow him. And it comes down to that aspect that says they'd stop following him if they felt that he was no longer there for him. But he doesn't sell that. He sells the fact that he's always there for them. External critics don't matter much. A trusted in-group figure turns against him. External critics don't matter as much. This has almost seemed like it's happening currently with the conservative politicians. It seems like some of them are starting to go against what he's doing to some extent, like this last activity that they had in the, I think it was the Senate, the U.S. Senate, actually had a vote. I apologize, I don't remember the details, but they had a vote, and it was basically related to Donald Trump pushing the attack on Venezuela, and that the Senate had put up a point that there was concerns about that and point out the aspect of they're not going to let that happen anymore. And I'm kind of thinking, in that aspect of just getting into the topics, the points that have been made and the things that I said, which is Donald Trump always shows a strong personality, a strong presentation to his followers, and he always does and says what he's going to do. And this aspect of the attack on Venezuela, which apparently was supposed to have the U.S. Congress approval to do it, which he did not acquire. Now, he said he did not need to do it because he said it wasn't a military maneuver. It was a legal maneuver, for lack of a better way of saying that, and that he was just doing something related to helping the population of Venezuela. Which we could say yes, because the Venezuelan, president, in quotation marks, was not a good guy. In fact, if you could think of somebody who was probably worse than Donald Trump, it was that guy. I apologize, I don't remember the Venezuelan president's name, but I'm sure you can look that up. And the aspect of him attacking Venezuela per se, but technically attacking him to get him out of there was a big question mark. And again, that looks strong for his supporters. It comes down to the aspect that says he doesn't have anybody that is going against him strongly, even though, like I just said, it does seem like some conservative members of the political group in the United States appear to be starting to go in that direction. It doesn't really look like it's really that strong still, in the fact that his voter base still supports him 100%. And the fact is, you get the feeling in because they're brainwashed or in a cult. He goes, I'm going to go attack this person. He goes, yeah, attack that guy. He's against us. Or it's something that we can, get out of it, And this is to say, well, okay, is that really truly something you should do? And that'd be something that some people will sit there and say we look at this as being something that in a humanistic perspective, should you be doing this? And the aspect of being somebody who's very authoritarian, somebody who's a thug, reasons why they would do it, which is to get something for themselves. And we certainly know that, and Donald Trump said it himself, he went after Venezuela for their oil. Now, Venezuela's got one of the largest, if not the largest, oil reserves in the world. Now, you got to admit, that's a huge bonus for Donald Trump, for the United States in general, to have control of that oil, which Donald Trump says they have. They have control of that oil. Well, the thing is, people looked at this as this is strong. Nothing's come out about this about him looking weak. And he's never expressed anything about that being a weak activity or something that he questioned. He didn't. Examples, hypothetical, a deep trusted conversation conservative icon, a longtime loyal ally breaking publicly incredibly, multiple in-group voices aligning at once. There's a little bit there. Again, like I said, there are conservative members in the United States that appear to be not going along with what Donald Trump is doing 100% anymore. Even then, damage occurs only if the criticism frames Trump as failing, the movement not as immortal. And again, as I mentioned before, Donald Trump never sells him as failing. So it's something you can sit there and say that people want to be behind somebody that they feel is strong and is positive in that light that people accept and people appreciate. And he does that. He does that very clearly. And again, I guess get back to he goes, I said at the beginning, he goes, how did this person get to where he's at? And I did say it certainly was not because of his capabilities. He certainly has no political capabilities in general. In fact, he's got really no capabilities at all. Like his business aptitude is very poor. That this guy ran multiple businesses into the ground, bankrupt. You talk to anybody who's in business, they sit there and say, going bankrupt is not a good thing. Donald Trump has done it multiple times. Now, I'm sure the people who are advocates of him probably would sit there and say, that's all been made up. I guess in the aspect to say, he goes, he can never ever do anything wrong, and he's never done anything wrong. Of all the things I've seen him be accused of, a lot of times I see the supporters of his group indicating the fact that those accusations are false. 100%. Clear evidence of self-serving motives over group interest. Supporters tolerate ego, greed, chaos. Yes, okay. They do not tolerate obvious personal gain at their expense. That's interesting. And I think it's got down the aspect that he's been able to, at least for his supporters, has been able to present things in a way where they don't see that that's what he's trying to do. You got the people on the other side who sit to say, do you not see that this is what he's doing? And again, it comes down to, do you see it? Do you not see it? Examples, abandoning core promises for personal protection, sacrificing supporters to save himself legally, transactional deals that visibly hurt the base. Some of these things I can see him actually doing. This reframes Trump from fighter to user. Repeated unavoidable failure without reframing. Trump survives losses by reframing outcomes, blaming enemies, denying defeat. Yes, that's completely true. That's his way. That's the way he works. Loyalty breaks only if failure is undeniable. Reframing collapses. I don't know what that really means. Blame narratives stop working. Yeah, okay. This requires time plus accumulation, not a single event. Okay. A stronger alternative who meets the same psychological needs. Supporters are loyal to what Trump provides, not just Trump himself. If another figure projects equal or greater strength, attacks the same enemy. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to reread this again because I'm reading and I'm not really, didn't keep in mind of what I'm actually talking about. Supporters are loyal to what Trump provides, not just Trump himself. Okay. If another figure projects equal or greater strength, attacks the same enemies, validates the same identity, appears more effective, then loyalty can transfer, not vanish. This is substantial, not persuasive. I could see that again in the aspect of politics, that you could see one politician doing something along that lines to try and take over from a predecessor just because, they see what is liked and what they can take over. I don't see that really happening, even though his vice president, people are portraying that he's trying to get in that kind of light, but I don't think he's there yet. Why scandals almost never work. Scandals fail because they come from distrusted sources, yes. Don't threaten identity alignment. Excuse me. Don't really know what that means. Can be reframed as persecution, yes. Reinforce us versus them. They often increase loyalty, yes. What doesn't break loyalty? Common misunderstandings. Legal troubles alone, media outrage, moral argument, fact-checking, yeah. Elite condemnation, ridicule or shaming, he's unfit message, yes. These activate defense mechanisms, yeah. And again, let's get into more of an attack mentality. And again, when you're in a cult, if your leader's attacked, you're attacked. You know that it goes, these can't be right because these are wrong. These are things that should not be done. So, if they're doing that to my leader, they're doing that to me, which again, that gives an aspect of very cultish mentality, a very brainwashed mentality that we see that seems to be very, strong in the Trump arena. The one sentence rule: Trump supporter loyalty breaks only when he is no longer perceived as strong, authentic protector of the in-group. Yes. Yes, I've said that multiple times in this conversation. Final insight: Trump's base is not loyal because they believe he is perfect. They are loyal because he plays a psychological role no one else reliably fills. Break the role and loyalty fades. Attack the man and loyalty hardens. And that really comes down to basically what I was talking about and what I said previously, which is Donald Trump never shows failure. Because he never shows failure, he always shows a strong presentation to his followers. And his followers like that. Again, in that aspect of, he's also sold himself as a person who's there for you. I'm there for you. I'm there to help you. And people don't see any kind of question marks behind that who follow him. Now, again, there are all kinds of things that are happening along that line. Now, again, if you're on the other side, and again, it comes down to aspects is, you're against us, so if you're against us, we're against you type of mentality. I think a lot of the stuff that happened with the shooting in Minnesota, that a lot of people sit there say, this looks like they're doing something against the people, which I would say, if you're a politician, that's the way it should be looking. That's the way you should be looking at, regardless of what political group that you are representing. When you get the appointment to a leadership role, you're leading everybody. You're not leading your people. You're leading everybody. You should be looking out for everybody. And I would sit there and say, if you looked at it in the long lines, it goes, look, he's the president of the United States. He's supposed to be looking out for everybody. And something like that has happened where a U.S. citizen died because of activity that was put in place by things that he has started. I would say there should be a question mark there. But again, it comes down to the aspect of, in that cult mentality, people don't see things that way. People see things as, he's our guy. He's there for us. He's strong. He lets people know that you're not going to push him over. When he's strong, we're strong. When he does things, he's looking out for us. He's making sure we're going to be okay. So the aspect of this person was shot, this person is being perceived as the bad guy, which is unbelievable. You sit there and say something like that, that's unbelievable. But again, his followers, you get the impression they really truly follow that strongly. And it makes you wonder, to me and in general, it makes me wonder how politics actually, I can't think of the word I want to use, but it's along the lines of how does politics move forward in the United States when you have these type of ways of looking at things, for lack of a better way of putting that, about why this person is the appropriate person to do what they're doing. And what would make you question that? And it comes down to me that in the United States, because they have a very, very, very strong cult-like mentality to their political leaders, you can see a lot of times when a question should be brought forward, it is not, because the person is the leader. They're there for me, and I can say that is something that probably can occur on the Democratic side as much as it occurs on the conservative side. So I'm not pointing out that, hey, it only happens here. And I'm just saying that's a mentality of the U.S. population. I would say that I can't think of anywhere else in the world off the top of my head that occurs. I certainly know here in Canada that doesn't happen. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that it's 100% that does not happen. It does happen. Like you do see some leaders in Canada that actually have been able to gain that level of support from their supporters. The thing is, that's usually a very small group. And in fact, of the political group itself, it's not something 100%. And people says, hey, look, I'm a conservative, but this guy is doing something that, no, I don't agree with. I don't care if he's the leader of the group that I follow. I only care that he presents himself in a way that demonstrates the capability to do what he wants to do. And if it comes down to the fact that people who are even on the side that person's on don't feel that occurs, then guess what? They won't support him. You know, they're a supporter of the concept, the idea, and not so much the person. In the United States, I think that's something along the lines of a bit of a reversal of that people are a supporter of the person and not a supporter of the concepts and the ideas in general. You know, and to me, I wonder why that occurs. That may be my point of topic on the next conversation point of this Trump evaluation, you know, to see, you know, why things are happening the way that they're happening, why people are doing what they're doing. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Been going for an hour. I almost had a person join my conversation, but it did not work out. I used Video Ninja for communication, and he just was not able to connect. So I'm going to have to try and figure out and do some research on Video Ninja or find another service that can do that. It's surprising now. You don't think YouTube, I want to see if YouTube actually has. Ask ChatGPT because it knows everything. Does YouTube have voice chat in live stream? Pardon me while I do some investigation here. No, YouTube does not have built-in voice chat features for viewers to talk voice during the live stream. Viewers and creators communicate through text chat. What you can do on YouTube Live is text live, host audio commentary. What you can't do on YouTube, video, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So we can't do that. Okay, so I'm going to leave things there. I want to thank you very much if you watched my video. I would absolutely love if you become a member. I would absolutely love if you watch some of my video. It would help me out a lot. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.